Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am, of course, the podcast mogul himself, Phil Better. And today I'm very, very happy to have an amazing entrepreneur coming on the show today. The founder, the CEO, the creative genius, if you will, behind She Sells, helping women not fit into anyone else's boxes and become the superstars that they're meant to be, their own boss, Elyse Archer. Elyse, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Phil. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, Elyse, I did say that you're the founder. You created She Sells, and it sounds like She Sells by the seashore. It's like a tongue twister, but It's not. She Sells. You created this to help women be their own bosses. But I want to go back to the beginning. Well, before we go back to the beginning, could you give us an introduction about yourself from your own words? I keep jumping over these things. I'm sorry. So excited. I'm so excited because reading your stuff. So could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. Well, hi, gosh. It's so good to be here. You know, it's funny when I was naming She Sells, the name I think everyone who's entrepreneurial can relate to this, where it's kind of like you just get this download sometimes and it's that flash of inspiration. And it's like, I've had a lot of non-flashes of inspiration too, I will say, Phil, through the years, but this one came as a flash and I was like, yes, that's the name, that's the brand. And then I laugh because every podcast interview I do now, they're like, she sells, like they can't pronounce the name. So I didn't think about that when I got the flash, but yeah, She Sells is the company name. But yeah, I'm a sales mentor. I do a lot with like money mindset as well, primarily with women. I have a very diverse array of clients, but I do work primarily with women. I'm a wife, I'm a mom. We've got a toddler and another little one on the way in a couple months.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're excited. Very big on giving back. There's a strong philanthropic focus of a lot of the work that we do, but that's kind of high level, and I'm happy to answer any questions from there that could be more specific.
I love the high level because it gives us such a wide range of things to start talking about. I want to go back to the beginning, the why. Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur? And was it always in your genes? Like, were you from a young age being like knocking on doors, going, "Hey, buy my service," like I'm doing grass cutting or so? I don't know what it is. Like, was it always in your DNA, or was it something that you just fell into?
Yeah, Phil, I think it was, and I didn't realize it. So my first sales experience that I can remember, and this makes me sound like such a terrible person. I'm just going to blame it on I was a little kid. But if you remember the Happy Meal toys that they sell at McDonald's, right? Like we were children in the 80s. We grew up eating at McDonald's all the time, which is like not the healthiest, but that
looking
was
back, no, our parents were but it was the
survived.
Time. It was fine.
We
we're
survived.
Alive. That's all that matters.
Yeah, some way, somehow we survived. So, we would get the Happy Meals and have the little toys in them. And I had a younger sister, still do, but younger sister, 2 years younger than me. And I remember we had accumulated this like treasure chest of Happy Meal toys. And I remember one day I got the inspiration that I was like, I think I could sell these and make some money off of them. So I didn't tell her. I just went and took all of her toys and all of mine too, and went and started literally going door to door in the neighborhood selling these toys. And I don't know that it was for a lot of money. I think it was maybe, I don't know, a nickel, so a dime, a quarter, maybe something like that, maybe a couple bucks, probably not even that much. But when I look back on who I was, like, yes, I was entrepreneurial. I just didn't really, I don't think I knew it. My dad was an entrepreneur. He did a lot in the tech software space, but he didn't really talk about it a lot. So I wasn't someone who was raised with like a parent teaching them, here's how you become an entrepreneur and here's how it works. So so from there, I went into sales in college. I went to school for journalism, but I was always very motivated. It's funny as I tell this, it's like, of course I was always an entrepreneur. I was very motivated to make money on my own all through college. So had a bunch of sales jobs as I went through college, found out while I was in college about how much you would make as a, I think my thought was I was going to be a newspaper reporter. Again, this all like dates me and makes me sound pretty old. But I remember my journalism professor one day telling us about how much we would make as a reporter. And I didn't have a lot of context for how much money was a lot or not a lot at that time. But I remember thinking, I don't know if that's going to cut it. Like even at the age of 18, I was like, I don't know.
50K, that's it?
Yeah.
There's no wiggle room on that? Like,
Yeah. So, that kind of went by the wayside. Obviously, I think we pick up skills and whatever we go to school for that we can apply later. Often, not always, but I can still apply those skills. But I went out of school and I went into sales and I went into media sales and quickly rose up the ranks in the leaderboard at the company that I was at the time. And in my mid-20s, I found myself having built the life that I thought I was supposed to build to be happy and successful. I was making low six figures. I had a house, nice car. Like I said, was like top of the sales leaderboard at work. And inwardly, I was completely broken. And I was struggling with panic attacks and eating disorder, like anxiety like crazy. And there was so much conditioning. It wasn't just in my career, but this is kind of what inspired me to go do what I do now professionally. There was so much conditioning around to be successful and to make money and quote unquote achieve.
Mhm.
You've got to outwork, out hustle, outgrind everybody else. And so that's what I was doing. I mean, I would literally get like 2 hours of sleep at night, like get up, be first one in the office, last one to leave. And I look back on it and I didn't know any other way, but I was like chasing this success that never seemed to get there, no matter how much money I made, no matter what accolades I got. And I never felt like enough. And so that is really what started my personal development journey. Actually, funny enough, it was podcasts, starting to listen to podcasts that started my personal development journey. I grew up in a household with very smart parents, like very academically smart. And we were blessed in a lot of ways by that. And yet there was really no exposure to like personal development. So I had no idea that you could transform your life by changing from the inside out and that I could shift things. But I remember when I was still in my corporate sales role, I was in outside sales, so I would have to drive a couple hours to go visit customers. And at the time, I was so unhappy with so many elements of my life that the thought of driving and like having to be alone with myself, I don't know if you've ever had that time in your life where like you just don't want to be alone with your own thoughts, right? It was so
2019 is my
there you
year.
go. Okay, yeah. So you get it.
Yeah.
That was my life. And I just couldn't stand to be alone with my own thoughts. And so I actually, in an effort to avoid hearing the thoughts in my head, I discovered podcasting. I was like, oh, this is amazing. I can listen to other
Someone
people
else's
talk.
voice in my head? Yes.
Yeah. And it was kind of my first exposure to, again, like I said, like personal development, to entrepreneurship. And it really inspired and motivated me that there's a different way I can live my life. And so kind of simultaneously, I had been studying different ways of sales success that didn't require so much hustle, so much burnout. I found that a lot of what was taught in my corporate sales training, it didn't feel right to me as a woman.
Mhm.
And I found there were a lot of people that it didn't feel right for, but especially for the other women I was working with, they were like this, they were just exhausted, burnt out, not in their power, any of it. So I was experimenting with these other ways of selling, building a personal brand, being more relational, imagine that, right? And finding more success. And I was like, there's a totally different way to do this. It's just it hasn't really been taught or embraced, not at least in the environments I've been in. And I decided finally to make a lot of big life changes. And the other piece I didn't mention, I was in a marriage that was really not a great situation either. And it was kind of one of those situations where everything in my life was just not aligned with who I really was at my core. And so this was, I'm trying to think of what year. I know you said 2019 was your year. I want to say this was like 2015, 2014, 2015. Yeah. I think it's 2014. I just made a lot of big life changes, and there was a lot of fear of getting out of the marriage, leaving the corporate job, leaving a lot of other friendships and relationships that were everything I knew, but they didn't resonate with my core anymore, who I was like as a human. But I just decided, it's like sometimes the pain of staying where you are is greater than the risk of making the leap and the jump.
Yeah.
So I left the marriage. I made a lot of changes in my friend circle, and I left the corporate job as well, like all within a couple of months, and had decided I was gonna, I mean, I'm not super risk averse. I mean, there are some things I won't do, but it's really been a journey of learning to trust myself and trust that even you'll never see what's on the other side of what feels like that big risk. You won't see it until you take it. But when when you feel that calling in your soul and you just know, you have to follow it. And so that was what I did. And I had on the side started promoting myself as a sales coach and consultant. I had one client who had paid me $300 to review a presentation for him. And I was like, it's proof of concept. I can make money outside of corporate. I'm gone.
It's your first client is the client that you swear is the gift. Personally, for me, my first client in the podcasting world, like, changed my life. Like, it's like you said, it's proof of concept. Like, oh, someone else is willing to bet on me.
Yeah.
Okay. If they're doing it, I can bet on me then.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. I mean, once you get that first client, and I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, obviously I charged him like nothing. I didn't really know what I was doing though. And it felt like the most money I'd ever made. And so to me, it was permission. It was like, go do it. And so, so I really started my entrepreneurial journey then. It certainly evolved and grown since then. I'm happy to speak to that, but that was kind of how it all came together.
Oh, I love it. It's such a great origin story going from and I think some entrepreneurs who delayed going into their own business, like, you started young, but then you're like, no, I have to go into the corporate world. Because I feel the same thing. Because when I was young, I wanted to be my own boss. But my dad was like, no, go into the corporate world. It's safe, and coming from a place of love, your parents don't want to stifle you or put you in boxes. They just want to make sure you're safe and taken care of. So, but then there's always the dark when you don't follow your true path. You're not talking to your core. You have a year that just is your year of change. It's the year that either breaks you, and then you go, no, I have to rebuild myself, or you figure out, no, this is not me. And then, like you did 3 huge changes in life, which is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. It was, I think we all have those moments, right? Where we realize we've built up these things or these people or these situations around us that are what we thought we were supposed to be doing, or who we thought we were supposed to be with, or how we thought we were supposed to show up in the world to be happy and successful. I think for so many of us, that's like our journey for the first part of our lives. And for some people, all of their lives, right? I think it's like some people have their moments of discovery. Other people maybe don't. I guess it's different for everyone. But so it was certainly very terrifying to make a lot of those changes because it was all that was known. But there was also this the word that showed up is like exhilaration of finally starting to feel free, which I know is why for so many of us, why we want to become entrepreneurs, why we want to do that and just be able to create life and business on our terms. And so there was a lot of unraveling and dismantling that had to be done. And there was a time where I felt very kind of naked, vulnerable, like, who am I? I don't know, I don't know myself in this new context, but I got to kind of recreate myself in a way that was far more aligned. So, yeah.
I love it. No, it's great.
Mm,
And of course, I'm still in that process, finding out who I am and all that. But luckily, I know my passion's podcasting, and I get to talk to amazing entrepreneurs like yourself. So I'm
mm,
ahead of the game, I think. But
yeah.
this is not about me. This is about you.
Mm.
What happened after you quit the corporate world? You got your first client who you obviously undersold yourself because you don't know what to price yourself. What did you do afterwards? Like, you got that client, you helped them with the presentation. Did
Mm.
What was your next step? Like, how did you start growing?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I had been one of the things that I did have working to my advantage was I knew how to brand. So I'd been working in media and branding for years. And this was before like personal branding became a big
Mhm.
thing. I was doing a lot of branding work with companies and simultaneously in my sales job, I was cold calling and I was like, this doesn't make sense that we're building funnels and online presences for businesses to generate leads. And yet for me to grow my business within this company, like I'm going out and cold calling. I thought how can I make inbound leads come to me? Right.
Yeah.
And so I've been simultaneously working on building up a brand and positioning myself as a sales coach, as a sales mentor. Um, so I'd been doing some things along the way. I'd started a local meetup group for sales professionals and business owners. So I've been working on building my platform and my brand and my name in the space. And so when I left, I had built a decent brand positioning. Again, I didn't have a whole lot of clients to show for it yet,
Mhm.
but I did at least have that. So I was able to go and kind of lean into that positioning more. One again, kind of curveball on the path, which it's part of the entrepreneurial journey, right?
Mhm.
Was I ended up partnering up with I don't know if you know Rory Vaden or his name in the podcasting space, but anyway, he was one of the podcasts I listened to that
Mhm.
really started to transform my life. Amazing guy, dear friend to this day. Um, but I remember I knew he had a sales coaching and consulting company. So, long story short, I reached out to him and his wife and asked if I could partner up with them and what they were doing. Felt like if you've ever like written to an idol and you're like, I don't think anyone's going to write me back. And,
Yeah.
you feel nervous to reach out. Well, sure enough, they were amazing and lovely and gracious. And I ended up partnering up with them and working with them, becoming a partner in their business. I was still an independent contractor, so still entrepreneurial, but um, it helped give me a lot of structure to my company and helped me just kind of help me get my feet wet in the space. And did that for years and years. And then a couple years ago, there was a very unexpected kind of corporate turnover within that organization overnight. About 10 to 20 of us left slash were asked to leave. And it was just a lot of dynamics going on there, and kind of once again found myself um, starting over from scratch, not really knowing what I was going to do next. So yeah, it's been a journey. It's always interesting when I talk about this because I feel like in parts of my mind, I don't even think about it anymore. At the time, it was very, very painful. I was under a 2-year non-compete where I couldn't talk about sales. And so I had to kind of rebuild, and we all got together and um, ended up creating this incredible company called Brand Builders Group, which has just blown up in the personal branding space. And they're doing amazing work. I partnered with them up until about a year and a half ago when I was able to talk sales again and start really rebuilding in the sales space. But yeah, it's been a journey of like be prepared for the not prepared for the unexpected, but like be okay with the curveballs as
Yeah.
they come. Because you can't control the whole thing. So, I'm happy to speak to my journey from there, but it's definitely not been a linear path, I would say for sure.
And I'm pretty sure nearly every entrepreneur, they start thinking it's going to be a linear path to the success they want, and then they figure out that no, it's horizontal, vertical, down, left, right, everywhere in the center, and like you said, the curveballs come. So
Mm,
yeah, I do want to know, in your whole journey so far, from
mhm,
you know getting the corporate world, leaving that, to building your brand, then having an NDA, a non-compete clause, where
mhm.
you're like, I can't use anything I built my personal brand on for at least 2 years,
Yeah.
to creating a great brand, and then now being able to talk about what you're so passionate about. is there a moment in there, a memory that just is a lighthouse that's just something you like to remember on the dark days?
You know, there's so many. Like
Mhm.
there are so many. I and this is gonna. It's not like every day is easy for me. Like my spiritual connection is so important, and it helps me kind of stay, I think, ab- above the fray of the
Mhm.
day to day matter. So I generally, it's like most days are pretty good. But with that being said, I will say this kind of speaks to the freedom
Mhm.
piece, right? That I think is so important for so many of us. So last year, like everybody else on the planet, we bought an RV. And I never, I never thought that I would be someone who was interested in that. I think it was partly becoming a boy mom. You know, we had had our first son the year before, and I just started having this desire for like really creating more time freedom and really being able to experience life in a different way. And part of what enabled us to do that was me being an entrepreneur and doing my own thing. It was like a been able to build up enough success in my business to retire my husband. And he like we had the time freedom to do it. We had the financial freedom to do it and to go out. I remember we've had numerous humorous instances of driving that thing, everything from the door flinging open on the side of the highway because we didn't know how to close it, me being flung from one end of it to the back while we drive because gravity. so there's been a lot of really funny moments in it, but there was just this beautiful moment. We were pulled over, we were camping on the side of the mountains, and I don't know, it was like a Tuesday morning, and it was kind of cold out still, and watching my husband and my little guy, who at the time was like less than 2, go out and just gather firewood together. And I was able to just sit there and like watch them, and they were doing their thing. And there's like coffee brewing inside, and it's warm and it's cozy, and being able to work with my clients from anywhere. I had some clients signed up later that day, but I was able to just be like so present in that moment and just really appreciate what entrepreneurship had created for our family and continues to create. Um, and yeah, like it's like moments like that, right? The things that really matter. So
That
yeah.
that's like a core memory, not
Mm,
only for you, but also for your son, just being out there with dad, helping him build the fire, feeling like a man, like I'm
yeah.
helping dad. Oh my God, I'm so jealous. I wish I was there. God.
It was, I mean, it's little stuff like that. Like it's little, but it's not. Right. I think at the end of the
Mhm.
day, that's what we really want, are like those moments, those memories, that presence of this is what life is really about. Um, and yeah, there's been a lot, but that one stands out for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I want to talk about tips and tricks because you've been in the branding world, you've been in the sales world, you've changed different ways because you didn't like the way some people were or where they were teaching sales. For entrepreneurs starting, coming in, because you've had to kind of rebuild yourself a few times and start
Mhm.
the entrepreneur journey over. Um, what would be a tip for them? Like apart from like just going for it, because that seems to be the current theme of tips that everyone's giving. Do you
Mhm.
have one maybe specifically for selling or setting up your brand when you're first starting out?
Yeah, I think I really think like you have to be your own best advocate. Do not be afraid to position yourself as an expert in your space. And this is what a lot of people get wrong is they think, well, I'm not ready yet, right? And I really think again, just kind of honoring AJ and Rory and my work with them at Brand Builders Group, like AJ always said this, and I believe it to be true. To be an expert, you just need to know more than the person you're talking to. And so, whatever you're feeling inspired to go out and do for your brand and for your business, you can help someone with that. There's someone who's not as far along as you, who you're well positioned to serve, but you've got to position yourself as the expert in front of them. It doesn't mean we lie. It doesn't mean we build ourselves up in ways that aren't authentic. It doesn't mean we're
Mhm.
not true, but that was truly one of the things that really helped me, I think, build momentum quickly when I first left corporate was that I had already like I had started branding and positioning myself as a really good sales coach because I knew I could help other people. I knew I could coach, even though I didn't have a lot of clients yet. I'd been helping my team members at work. And I was like, I can help people do this. And I remember when I partnered up with I mentioned I partnered up with a bigger company, and one of the women in there who became a dear friend, she asked me, she was like, "You're so new at this, but you have so many inbound leads coming in on LinkedIn and people who want to work with you." And she was kind of like mad about it. She was joking, but kind of mad. She was like, "I've been doing this for years. No one's reaching out to me. Like, what's up?" And I branded and positioned myself. So you have to promote yourself like the best possible product out there, right? Like think about whatever your favorite product is. Like I'm obsessed with Four Sigmatic coffee. I'm not an affiliate of theirs. I talk to everyone about it because who knew mushroom coffee would make me so happy? It's great. But like, so I think about that. Like I have to promote myself like Four Sigmatic coffee. Like I do Four Sigmatic coffee because nobody else is going to, right? Your customers will believe in you to the extent that you do. So I think that's the key is you can't wait until somebody calls you an expert. You've got to go out and position yourself as such.
That is very wise and very, very good advice from someone who's had to position herself as an expert in multiple times starting over. But yeah, no, that is so true. Just know just a bit more than the person that you're helping, and then you'll go leaps and bounds. It's true because I have a student that I helped start his podcast, and he's helping me understand how to launch a challenge now. So it's a fair exchange. And I'm like, but I was just teaching you, and now you're. It's amazing how the synergy can help when you just help someone too. We're coming to the end. I hate it because I'm having so much fun talking with you, Elyse, and I'm pretty sure you have a wealth more of knowledge to share. But we're going to ask the last question here. It's sparked by Seek Discomfort, to spark conversations and get you to seek the discomfort in you. The question I have here today is there someone who has had well, we kind of covered this, but is there someone who has had a big impact on your life and doesn't even know it?
Oh, and doesn't even know it.
Because I'm pretty sure Rory, AJ, and them, they know how big of an impact they've had.
Yeah. You know what? Okay, so I will give yes. And this man has had a big impact, I think, on a lot of people's lives. But I don't know him personally yet. So Joe Dispenza, if you are familiar, have heard, really, really started following his work a couple years ago, and it has transformed every element of my life. And I mentioned earlier, to me, like my spiritual connection is what keeps me grounded and helps make the ups and downs of the entrepreneur journey not feel so tumultuous. And I think I've grown so much. I've learned so much. I've tapped into deeper levels of possibility and potential through his work. I actually had his head of research on my podcast earlier this year, and that was a phenomenal opportunity. I met her at one of his events. And so I've been able to connect with some of the members of the team and what they're doing, and it's really phenomenal. But yeah, it would be him.
Awesome. I'm definitely going to go check out more of his stuff so that I can up my game. If it's helped you, it's probably going to help me.
Yeah.
Elyse, I'm going to jump off screen here. I'm going to let you have the last little bit here to let people know where they can follow, how they can support you in any way, listen to your podcast, and invest in themselves to the next level. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Phil. Gosh, I appreciate that. Yeah, so super honored to connect with you today, and I'm also very honored if I could be in the queue of other amazing podcasts, like Invest in Yourself in your podcast queue. That is a real honor. You can check out my podcast, She Sells Radio. We're actually doing daily episodes of tips right now. And regardless of what your gender is, I promise you what we talk about will work and will apply for you. We have a very diverse group of listeners, and ElyseArcher.com/scripts. We've got a really great free guide and training on 5 sales scripts to help you increase your closing rate 50% or more. And it's not hard, pushy, slimy sales strategies, I promise. So again, you can get that at ElyseArcher.com/scripts.
Awesome. Elyse, I want to thank you so much for being an awesome guest today on Invest in Yourself. I can't thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Phil. This has been great.
Awesome. And to my audience, make sure you go check out the show notes down below. The links to Elise's free scripts will be there, as well as her podcast. Make sure you go support her. And of course, remember to always, always invest in yourself.